Standard Taimanov. I've been playing a lot of this recently. Not like insane success rate, but some pretty 50-50. Lower rated players I can finesse a bit more, but higher rated is kind of difficult. G3 to play F4. Don't remember if I need to go A6 or if I can go. Yeah, I should be able to play A6 here because if he goes bishop before, I play E5, and if knight D5, I can take on or I can take on B5. Like you could just go D6 too. D6 makes a lot of sense, and then if bishop f4, you play E5, and then, but then you get hit with knight D5. I don't really like that, so I feel like you should go A6. Oh, I mean, we just got a free tempo with B5 now. So that looks pretty good. And bishop f4, I think E5 will be winning after B4 forking the knights. So yeah, knight to E5 is interesting, but I guess moves the knight or he defends F3. I mean, you can also take on A3. Play check and then take on A3. Or you could just develop a tempo on F6. Maybe bishop B7 even. Possibility, but probably F6. Like, objectively, what's the best move here? I don't know. Probably just knight F6. Developing your second knight with a tempo. And then he develops to G2, defends. And yeah. I mean, 95 is a useful move. But I imagine he goes knight F4. And then yeah, I mean, you could go something like bishop B7. And then he goes bishop G2. And then you can go B4, and he's forced to go knight B1. And After knight b1, you could play queen to b5 if you really wanted to. If you're into that kind of thing. Or you could also go knight f6, which hits e4 with a tempo. And then he would go knight to d2, defending the pawn and developing his knight. And then yeah, and then not too sure about that. Yeah, maybe I just go knight f6. I think sequence with b4 does too much. Like really, you're chasing the knight away to somewhere that it needs to go anyway. So yeah, and actually, I think no, you don't have a pawn win. So bishop, maybe you had a pawn win earlier. Yeah, in this position. In this position, you could take on a3, pawn takes a3, and just play queen e5, and you're hitting the rook and the pawn. So knight f6 was a mistake. It's not a blunder. You're not losing the game, but you could have been winning material. Could have been up a pawn. Sometimes the e4 pawn is not really worth. Um, it's not really. Sometimes the e4 pawn doesn't really give black that much advantage, so I'm not too worried about it. But it was something I missed. And yeah, you also give up your dark squared bishop for the knight in exchange for, well, I mean, you ruin his pawns and you win a pawn, so actually kind of nice, but I'm still not too worried about it. I think I'm just gonna go h5 here and just create a hook. Potentially go h4. Alright, with that move I think I can develop my bishop to e7 finally. Seems correct. Bishop takes a3, doesn't quite work with queen e5. Hitting both the bishop and the rook, because you could just, I mean, you could take on f6, and the rook's not hanging at the moment, so. That tactic, doesn't really work anymore. Knight g4, probably just plays h3. And then you could go knight to e5. It's interesting. If he goes f4, you have Bishop c5 check. Or queen a7 check. Probably bishop c5 check. And yeah, it's forced to go king h1. Is anything there really good? Not really. I think you have to put like knight g6 in that position or something. Actually, I don't know. That could be interesting. H3, knight g6, f4. And the g3 pawn is kind of weak. So it's interesting. I don't think it's winning or anything. So I'm just gonna develop. Just develop. C4. It's interesting, but I think I will go b4. I could take on a3 and take on c4 as well. Winning a pawn. Temporarily, maybe. Maybe only temporarily. So, won't do that. I'll just push. I'll push forward and maybe put the knight on e5 with a tempo on c4. Can also go queen to e5, hitting b2 and the bishop on g5. b2 may not be a free pawn. But yeah, knight e5 actually looks like a solid tempo because hit c4, hit e4, bishop takes f6. He gives up the bishop. I have to move a little bit faster because my opponent, wants to play quickly, but that's all right. Still have 5 minutes. I guess he could take on f6 and then take on b4. If I take back with the bishop, he'll surely take on b4, but I think that's fine. Yeah, and here I thought I could play knight takes e4. Maybe I just go h4 even. He does have queen d4, but I have yeah, okay, so he has queen d4 on most everything. But I think I'm gonna go d6. Just be solid. And if he takes, we take. And that's a good pawn in the center there. He could take on b4, but then I could take on e4. The tempo. Potentially. No, I'll take. We played b3. So yeah, that hangs the e4 pawn. I'm seemingly seeing that. And if you take b4, I'm okay with that because e4 is a better pawn. So potentially. I mean, sometimes this e4 pawn is really not that great. But I think here maybe I have some tricks with like d5 or something. Maybe not. Could also play knight to c5 with like knight d3 tricks. Um, could maybe just start pushing the a pawn for like a minority attack after knight takes. I do have d5, which is a discovery on the knight, but he has always this queen d4 move, forking both the pieces. So I'm slightly aware of that. Queen d4 is a move. So I think well, the d5 defends. Oh wait, d5. So if obviously if pawn takes. Oh, he's on this guy. Okay, so let's see. How do I do this? Interesting. a5, knight d3. I just go knight c5. Let's just go h4. Can't hurt, right? I don't think I plan on. I don't plan on castling kingside. Want the rook on the open file. Currently, this rook's doing nothing, but maybe I'll eventually I'll play queen a7 and queenside castle. Obviously, queen d4 is it's a useful move. Um, knight c5 or knight to f6. I think I go to f6. Takes on b7, takes on b7, takes on e5, takes on e5. Wait a second, it takes. Maybe I go f5. It's kind of a crazy move, but I think I need to do something crazy. A little bit. What if it takes on g3? Alright, let's do this. It's a little wild and crazy. But again, I think I need to be crazy. Also, maybe I'm threatening knight f3, e5. Knight f3 check, bishop f3, e5. Yep. Microphone just shut off. Sorry about that. Another move is knight c6 after. If he does nothing, oh, if he does nothing, then maybe knight f6 or knight c6. Trade some pieces potentially. So takes queen d7 doesn't do anything in particular. So I'm wondering if g5 does something. Probably not. Also knight f3 e5 does something. know if it's good, but it does do something. Also, knight or h3, knight g5. It's an interesting idea. I kind of like this. h3. Right. Um, bishop g5, which knight g5. I mean, looks kind of deadly. If he takes g5, I think I'm gonna grab the bishop. And if he takes on e7, then I have knight f3 check, winning the queen. And yeah, interesting. F3 is not possible. It's hit 3 times. I don't know if this is good. It could be bad, but it's tricky. And not really the position you want to be in with 1 minute and 30 seconds. But if it's good, then I'm winning. And you do want to be winning with 1 minute and 30 seconds. Like immediately winning. Right, so this is what I had in store for you. Take. Of course, I'm immediately threatening knight takes, or knight f3 check. So really the only move is king takes h1, and then I play queen b7 check, and then the only move is f3, and then I take on f3, and hitting your queen, threatening a discovery. If you take with the rook, then I take with check, and I mate you on g2. So you have to, I don't know, move your queen somewhere. Then I have a discovery check and a mate threat on g2. So that looks pretty good. If you take on d6, happens there. Knight f3 check. Knight to f3 check. Oh, you know what happens there? If you take on d6, I think I just move the bishop back. And if you take my queen, knight f3 is mate. Or, it's not mate, but you get hit with the windmill. Like knight f3, knight f3 check, king h1, takes on d4 check. Yeah, funny enough, or bishop g2. Bishop g2 is very cheeky, because that does threaten knight f3 mate. Right? And if you go f3, then maybe we have something. Takes on f3. Queen b7 though, actually. Yeah, what goes on queen b7? You will find out.
Check.
Okay.
Time warning.
So I'm not winning, which is, well, not immediately winning. I think the position is winning, but not immediately winning, so could be a little bad. I have to move quickly too. Queen b7 was a mistake too. I should have played queen e4. It's just a much better square. Take on h1 maybe. I mean, I lose on time, I think. It's unfortunate. Completely winning, but yeah, what can you do? Play faster, I guess. I wonder if it's like I said when I played. Yeah, so the engine like this idea, which I was talking about. Yeah, I mean now you're hitting the rook. You're up a pawn. It's forced to go rook g1. Pretty ugly. Double pawns. But anyway. The game goes in a different direction. Queen e5 now. 95. So yeah, bishop takes e4. Let's go d6. Knight takes e4. He took on. Wow. Okay, so knight takes f2. That's an interesting move. Because rook takes, and bishop takes, and rook takes, and queen takes, and is equal material, but somehow you're in a better position. Alright, I played like this, which is not that good.
Check. Check.
Rook e8 is mate in 7. Alright. Is what it is.